Joining us now on Inside Track is Clarke Murphy, global leader of Russel Reynolds CEO and board services practice. Clarke.
Good morning.
Good morning to you. The street has had 10,000 layoffs this year. We're talking about bonuses being down 30 to 40%. Are banks really focused on succession planning, leadership programs, or has that gone out the window?
No, I think at one level, at the top of the house, reporting to the CEO, the boards have never been under as much pressure. So there's no question that the direct reports are being shuffled around. They're trying to find out who could run these banks next time because they got caught out in the crisis, several of them, as we all know. But farther down, there's probably less time in the next generation being generated. They want profits now. They're less focused on who's doing what in management.
But you look at not just banks, you look across the corporate sector. Do banks traditionally put the right kind of people in those leadership seats? If you look at high-flying traders and bankers, are they the right type of person to run a global organization?
I mean, the devil is in the details of who's being promoted, and revenues get promotions in Wall Street. Except now, with risk and the issues happened the last 4 or 5 years, I think there's more focus on, again, this generation below. But we know that profits win on Wall Street, whereas a General Electric, a United Technologies, places like that spend 20 years grooming people, you're probably grooming people for the last 3 or 4 years, not for 20.
And now when we talk about profits, when we also look at what bonuses are going to look like, and when we hear down 30 to 40%, what does that really mean? There's been a lot of government regulation pushing banks to pay their employees in stock. Now, if you ask bank employees, they'll say, I'm tired of getting stock. I don't get it for 3 years. But if you take a step deeper, in New York Times Deal Book this weekend, it said, if these guys are getting paid stock at these prices, it could make them, quote, zillionaires in the long run. How true is a statement like that?
Well, I tell you, if you look at Credit Suisse giving the portfolio securities a few years ago for bonuses, they clearly made more in the appreciation of that. If Jim Lockhart and Ross are buying bank stocks, I think they're going up, which means the $100 you're going to get or $100,000 in a bank stock today is going to be worth a lot more in 3 or 4 years, but not tomorrow. The trade-off is you're getting less cash, right? And you're aligned with shareholders, but you're gonna get appreciation. I don't think there's any question.
So when Brian Moynihan of Bank of America and Lloyd Blankfein stand up and say, I'm not even taking any cash, it's all stock, I care about the company, is that just tomfoolery because they don't need the cash today and they're gonna make out like bandits in 3 years?
Well, it didn't pay off for the last 3 years. It'll probably pay off this year in 3 or 4 years. So it goes round and round, but what they took in 08 and 09 probably didn't come back, as we all know, except for Goldman. But in 3 or 4 years, that's going to pay off for sure.
And can bank employees afford that? Can they afford to just get paid in stock right now?
Well, that's the bigger issue. We get back to the young generation. If you're not getting cash to live in New York or wherever it is, it's a lot tougher than it used to be. The fundamentals of the profits of the banking business have changed back to good old-fashioned banking. So these huge paydays just aren't going to happen unless you're willing to stay there 10 years.
Now, you place the guys in the biggest seats on the street. Is your phone ringing right now? Does it sound like banks are prepping that heads could roll at the end of this year after a tough Wall Street year?
2 answers. One, clearly there are going to be more layoffs. When our phone rings, it was in crisis mode to replace the chief executives or replace board members before. At this point, the phone's ringing to bring people in to grow revenue, to grow markets, to go to Asia, to run businesses or run joint ventures or acquisitions.
Well, I think a lot of those banks will be looking to grow if we have a nice big rally again this week.
Exactly.
Thank you so much. Clarke Murphy, Managing Director at Russel Reynolds and Associates.